Ben Wise here, and today I want to talk about the diagonal dash bar facing burpee. So this is a variant of the bar facing burpee in its particular kind of technique. I want to show you, and then I'll talk about it a little bit. Okay, so 3 things that I want to point out from that demo that will be helpful tips for you. First of all is spin slowly. So in other words, you have to spin, right? Like when I'm starting my bar facing burpee, I'm facing the bar. I have to eventually get to the point where I spin around and face the opposite direction and do a 180. So the slower and more continuously I can spin, the more efficient that's gonna be, right? So versus maybe jumping over and then having to like turn around and kind of shoot the feet back. Here, if I'm spinning slowly the entire time, it allows for efficiency in that way. So I'm gonna keep my head nice and close, press up. I'm gonna jump my feet, one between where my hands are placed, one outside close to the bar. And then you can see I'm sort of on a third of a turn here. I'm gonna jump, again, sort of another third of that distance that I have to travel. And then I'm gonna sweep my feet back and do that last third for finish. So I'm continuously turning just a little bit at a time, each rep that I do. And ultimately that's gonna allow for efficiency. Second tip is to stay close and low. So in other words, staying with my head close to the bar, so I literally don't have to travel as far to get up to the bar. And then staying close in terms of my height as well, but also thinking about trying to stay as low as possible while I'm actually jumping over the bar, and I'm trying to keep my torso bent over where I'm literally not standing up out of it as I jump over. So a lot of people have the tendency after they get up out of the burpee to stand up all the way and jump over. And then when they want to sweep their feet back, it's this process of rebending over. So your hip is just continuously flexing and extending, and it makes you more tired, right? Versus if you keep a greater percentage of your mass close to the bar the entire time by staying close and staying low, it's way more efficient. So think, as I get down, head stays close. As I come up, I stay low. And I'm gonna make sure that I'm just thinking about keeping my hips and my chest as close to the bar the entire time. So as I come up, keeping close. As I'm jumping over, staying low, staying close, sweeping the feet, staying close. So stay low, stay close the entire time. And then the third and final tip is that your cycle speed is what determines your sustainability. So in other words, the speed at which you're going through your reps determines how long you can sustain doing that speed. So in other words, if you go faster, you're gonna burn out quicker. Which seems obvious, but there's a way that we can manipulate this. So practically, in this particular variation, you're either going to be pressing up and then sweeping the feet, or you're going to press and simultaneously, at the same time, sweep the feet. So if we're doing a more sustainable version, we'll come down and we'll press up into sort of this tripod plank position, and then we'll come up and then we'll jump over. Versus if we're trying to move really quickly, we'll come down and move up at the same time. So the one, I'm pressing and moving my feet versus press and then move the feet. So I'm gonna demo both those really quickly. And then the last thing I want to leave you with is to make sure that if the rules, which they usually do, dictate a 2-foot takeoff and a 2-foot landing, that you're making sure that you take off with 2 feet and land with 2 feet. So because your feet are spread out when you're jumping over, it's a really common thing to want to move this outside foot quicker than the inside foot when you're taking off. And then when you land, the opposite, where that inside foot lands, intends to land before that outside one steps down again. So that's really what's common, is for that outside foot to move quick first, and then that inside one to land before the outside one lands again. So again, that's just something that you need to be conscious of so that you can make sure you manipulate your footwork and timing as you need to make sure that foot gets down. And then lastly is that if the rules and the standards dictate that you have a jump up in your burpee rather than a lunge or a step up in your burpee, that you may not be able to use this version, or you may have to tweak it a little bit to make it work. So in other words, if you're not allowed to spread the feet apart dramatically, you have two options where, again, you just pick a different variation, or you can work a little bit more and like keep those feet together a little bit more. So instead of spreading out so much, you'll keep those feet more together so they land at the same time and they're relatively underneath your hips. Again, you're gonna have to determine what the exact standards are, but it could work depending on who you are. So that is the diagonal dash, bar facing burpee.